Hello students, and welcome to the next lesson in our AS level psychology course. Today we're going to be looking at the behavioural explanation of psychopathology. The behavioural explanation of psychopathology. This approach states that normal and abnormal behaviours can be learned, and it's a behaviour which we pick up from our surroundings. We learn these through operant or classical conditioning. If you learn maladaptive behaviours via operant or classical conditioning, you are deemed to be as abnormal. So firstly, we have to understand what operant and classical conditioning are. Classical conditioning occurs through the association of a neutral stimulus along and with an uncontrolled stimulus, and this will formulate an uncontrolled response, which will eventually turn into a controlled response. Now, you only need to know this briefly. All you have to do is outline classical conditioning if you're going to mention it in the behavioural approach to define psychopathology. If you do want to know this in more detail, be sure to visit section 3, which is all about attachment, on this psychology playlist, and then you can learn about classical and operant conditioning in more detail. So this will give you a controlled response later on once you associate a neutral stimulus with an uncontrolled stimulus, which will result into a controlled response. If you link a stimulus with a maladaptive response and expect that thing to always happen, you're going to experience faulty learning, and this faulty learning is going to end up giving you maladaptive behaviours which cause you to be abnormal. For example, if you associate perhaps a positive outcome with a negative action, you're always going to believe that that negative action is actually something which to you isn't negative, but it's something positive because it results in a positive outcome. If you associate these two together, it's going to lead to faulty learning and maladaptive behaviour. Operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is a form of learning where we associate consequences or rewards based on our actions. Reinforced rewards make someone want to do this action again, and negative consequences after someone completes an action makes them want to avoid it in the future. So if someone learns that by doing a maladaptive action you get a positive reward, they're experiencing faulty learning. Bandura said that if you learn from others and their consequences from the actions they do, you are vicarious. But now more on faulty learning. If you associate perhaps hitting someone with a positive reward, then that's maladaptive behaviour because you're associating a negative action with a positive reward. This will result in abnormal behaviour of someone who just goes around punching people all the time, which isn't normal at all. Now we're going to evaluate the behavioural approach. Firstly, it ignores that genetics and physical agencies can actually impact behaviour. So this simply says that all abnormal behaviour is learned through our environment by operant and classical conditioning, and it ignores that biological factors, which we looked at in the biological explanation of psychopathology, can actually influence abnormality. Also, it ignores the significance of a thinking process. This just states that everything you do pick up for abnormal behaviour is learnt. However, it doesn't say, like rationally, that we can think about what our actions are going to be. It is a scientific approach, however, and it does have research which backs it up. For example, Pavlov showed that classical conditioning is in fact a scientific measure, and so did Skinner when he conducted Skinner's box with his rat. Also, it denies free will, which is kind of a criticism of it because as humans, we debatably have free will, and that kind of states that this takes it away because it just says that we are subject to classical and operant conditioning, and everything we will actually do in the future is based on what we have learned. Here are some questions on the behavioural approach to psychopathology. Have a go at answering these on another sheet of paper by pausing the video and then hit play whenever you're ready to see the answers. Here are the answers. If you got both of these right, congratulations. I'd advise you to move on to the next video, which will be on behavioural therapies and ways we can treat abnormal behaviour learned through behavioural techniques from the behavioural approach and try and treat it. As always, visit the website revisealevel.co.uk or the channel playlist for more information on A-level psychology. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.